Hello, it's day 9 for me on the 30-day video challenge, and I feel a little behind the times because I haven't been doing some of that wonderful updating and producing that I've seen the rest of you do, but I promise I'll get onto it, and before this time is out you will see what I've created. I needed to continue a little bit of more of some of the things that I have done in my life, and I got to the part where I told you that I was adopted and I'd found my birth family, which was quite an amazing experience. And even today, we're still friends. My mum, in fact, both my mums have died, and my dad, of course, died when I was 14 years of age, which was quite traumatic at 14. Gee, I need to tell you a couple of things about me because it's a bit like, well, what the hell do I have the right to do this? One of the things that I don't publicly talk about too much these days is the fact that for 6 years I lived with a heroin addict. It was my son. He was between the ages of 20 and 26, and as a mother and a mother's perspective on living with a heroin addict, it was quite traumatic. There were days when I recall saying, I think death would be a better option. And as a mother, how do you say that about your child? He was in the depths of despair. He tried lots of things, and it wasn't until his son was born to a girlfriend. However that happened, I don't know, but I now am the grandmother of a most magnificent young man. It wasn't until the birth of his child that he had a bit of a turnaround, and the turnaround didn't come easily. It came with a lot of tragedy as well. I'm pleased to say that today my son is 16 years clean of heroin. He still has his battles and his struggles, but he's an amazing young man. He lives in far north Queensland, and yes, I was able to see him this weekend. And I don't know what it's like to take drugs, but I do know what it's like to be a mum of a son who's taken drugs. And it was from that experience that it took me one step further in my career, and for the last 15 years I have worked in jails throughout New South Wales, working with prison inmates, teaching them about behaviour, about change in behaviour, and the difficulties associated with it. As a mum, as a psychotherapist, and as someone who understands the brain, I'm able to, I feel, relate to these guys, and now I go to some of the women's prisons and just talk with them, tell them my story. I tell them in a lot more detail than I've told you, and they get it, they understand it, and we make connections. I wouldn't say I make changes, I make connections. Thanks.